Welcome to the fish tank.
Hey everybody, Fishman here, and welcome to another video. Periodically I get questions in the comment section that are very difficult to answer in a limited number of words, and sometimes it is difficult to describe something using words instead of just showing you how to do it. So every now and then I'm going to put together one of these videos where I can show a little bit more detail and hopefully answer questions a little bit more thoroughly. If that's the kind of thing you're interested in, just let me know below. And if you have a question that you think is answered better in this style, definitely every time you leave one of those, let me know. And I will keep that in mind for the next time I do one of these. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook up the new lights for the second row in the recycled rack. And I'm also going to put some lids on that. And that is going to actually cover a bunch of the questions I've had. First off, people have been wondering what kind of LED lights I use in my fish room, and they're pretty much exclusively at this point these things. This is LED tape. It is CRI greater than 95%, and it's also 10K. And this particular one I'm using here has a silicone coating on it, so they're technically waterproof. Though I find if you like have water splash on them, and because of they don't really heat up that much, but because of the temperature change between having water on them and evaporating and the heat and the cold, it tends to burn out whatever is exposed to that over time. So I try and make sure that I have a splash guard, which will be the lids that we'll be building, that to cover that and keep that from happening. You can cut these things at any of those pads that you see. I just tend to get it roughly to the length I want. It doesn't have to be the full length. But all of my lights in the fish room are these things. And the reason why I like them is when I first started doing this, I started using these tapes almost 3 years ago now. And at that time, I was buying mostly commercially available ones, and I bought about 10 to 20 for clients and myself. And I think within a year, 90% of them were useless. Either the power supplies went, or the bulbs weren't working properly. I mean, it was a number of issues, and also, of course, because they're not made out of the best metals, I was getting some rust and a bunch of unsightly things and that sort of stuff. The aluminum is much better. Of course, it's been almost 3 years now, so I do the first ones I set up, and I was trying a number of different tapes. It's time now to replace them. They're all on the old rack, and I'm going to be renovating that anyway. So, I mean, 3 years is fine. I'm actually very happy with that, and it's very straightforward to replace these. And I mean, of all the power supplies I bought, I think I have, I think there's one that has one burnt out one side, and one that got kind of exposed to a lot of salt, so that's not really its fault. So 1.5 out of all the ones I bought, and that's what, 10%? So these are much better. If you want this style of lights, of course, just my source is Auto LED. Just talk to Sam, and he can hook you up with all that. Now, for soldering these up, I tend to use every about 2 feet on these things. There is a solder joint between the tapes, and that's what the connector is. I find it easier, especially with the silicone, to use that to join them up. Just positive, positive, negative, negative. You can do any one you want, or you can do them all. It's direct current, so it doesn't matter. So that's it. That's as easy as that is. I hope that answers the questions that people had. I'm going to show you these all hooked up. Usually at the end of this, what I'll do is I'll put a dab of silicone on top of this and seal it again. And they're great. And they're very easy to change as well. The other thing I want to talk about are the lids. I've done 2 styles of lids to date. This one here I actually really like. It works well. Every now and then I'll flip it. The one in the back's been flipped. You can see it's almost straight again. The one up front is getting a little curved and needs to be changed. But a little while ago I was busy, so I just put a little piece of 1/4 inch on here, and that was months ago now, and it just has a slight curve to it. So I started making these, and the reason for this is I do a lot of videos and I want to show stuff off, and I don't want to take a whole lid off. I just have to, like in this case here, just remove the front panel, and they work great. These are the first ones I made. They're fine, but I find they're fragile. The weld I get on the ends here, and you can see on the other end as well, is a little loose. They break off. I mean, they don't clean as well because they are a lower grade of polycarbonate. But again, I'm going to be switching over to these here. These I find, because, I mean, acrylic will curve, or warp, whatever you want to call it, whenever you use them as lids. But because it's such a small section, I mean, this is a small footprint. This is like 12 by 8 inches. And with these large quarter-inch brackets on them, I don't think it's going to be an issue at all. I don't think I'm going to have to ever really flip them. But again, if I do, it's just a matter of putting them upside down for a week or two and then putting them back upright. And all of them, I'm putting a central airline hole through the top there. And that is going to be, well, obviously where the airline goes in and where it hooks up to whatever filtration system is. And this is, like, I'm going to make 5 here right now for the recycle rack. And that's for 1 on the top, the 4 on the bottom. And I'm going to test these out for a few months, see how I like them. And then, of course, the other ones I'm going to make for it, the front and the back, don't need a hole. So it'll be actually even easier. And this takes about 2 minutes each, and to actually cut the stuff on the saw, maybe another 10 minutes. So you're looking at 12 minutes a lid, and it's not expensive. Unfortunately, because of our current situation, I have limited access to acrylic at the moment, and I'm burning through it real fast. So for the time being, I'm only going to put 1 central lid just to cut down all the splashing on the new recycled rack. So I might get a few jumpers. I don't like that, but again, I don't really have the materials at the moment to fully encase them. So I'll just have to deal with that as is, and hopefully it won't be too big an issue. So there you go. That's, what, 2 minutes, 2 lids, and it's very straightforward. And because this is a high quality acrylic, they're easy to clean. And of course, eventually when they do get scratched, they're easy to polish. So here they are hooked up, and you can see they protect from the splashing. I actually really like these. And there's the light there. It's just fits on those brackets, the cross brackets, and it has those angle the angle pieces fit into that. And then I just put a splitter on here, and it runs up. This one power supply you see right there at the top runs those lights on the 7-foot tank, the top row of the recycled rack, and now these. So I mean, the power supply in Canadian dollars runs, good Lord, what was the last? About $110. And then I've used 1 full roll, and I think a little bit of another. And then again, they're about $90 each. So I've lit these tanks here. So there's 4 on the bottom, and then there's the 3 on top, and then the 7-foot tank, all for about $200, $220. That's actually pretty good. And now the other thing I mentioned before is I like to put snails and gramaris and shrimp in my tanks to start them off. Now, some people are going to like this, but the shrimp are actually my canaries. They're a lot more sensitive to changes in chemistry, and they let me know if I start seeing them being a little lethargic, and sometimes they'll die. I'm sorry, but they are there to let me know the chemistry and what's going on. This end tank, I don't think I'm going to be putting fish in it. I want to really ramp up my populations of snails, shrimp, and gramaris. I want to get a lot more of them. I find they're really great food sources for fish. Again, for those of you who think that's a little cruel, I'm sorry. It's just great. I find that they're a great cleaning crew, and they are great food sources for fish, especially when they're growing up and stuff like that. So there's these tanks all set up. The other thing I want to talk about today is someone wanted to know, actually there's two questions about this. First off, someone wanted to see what it looked like with going to the surface. So I put a bunch of rocks underneath. And another person wanted to know how well this cleans. So what I did is I've been doing a lot of plant renovations in the, I mentioned before. So I pulled a lot of plants out of this, which really stirred this up. And so I put this in to see how well it cleaned. And so I think this is like when I first set it up. And I think I let it run about 4 or 5 hours. I can't remember, but I think it was morning to late afternoon. And the next clip is I'm going to show you what that looks like. So this is 4 or 5 hours later. It's not crystal clear, but it did a pretty good job. The problem with the Frankenfilter is the turbulent bubbles. They do create flow, but it's not very useful flow, I guess. I mean, it looks nice, but this is the comparison. This tank is twice as large as the other one. This filter is less than half the size of that, and I pulled out all the plants in this because this is the one that had the comparison between the Alison area that was growing out. I had to really break that up. So again, the same amount of time later, this is what this looks like, and this is just the box filter. So obviously the straight box filter is a much better filter than the Frankenfilter. But then again, that build was more just to show a bunch of different techniques and show you what you can do with a filter. And it's also kind of neat to see it as a comparison. So I only have one more update I wanted to show you. It wasn't really a question by anybody, but this is something that really surprised me. This is the rolling drum filter. And as you can see, the lower drum's not turning. It turned out that it ended up getting saturated. Not so much the sponges, but you'll see there's water in the bottom. And because there's water there, it decided to stop turn. You can try and get it going. Do a couple flicks here to get it going. It's easy to fix, but it was a surprise result. I mean, I expected the one on the top to end up seizing up way before this, but this one did. So anyway, definitely let me know if you like this style of video, because I like answering questions this way. It's a little easier or more detailed, and also gives you a visual for it. And of course, if you like this style of video, please like and or subscribe. I'll always appreciate that. And again, always leave lots of comments. I definitely get to them all. And I have plenty more updates to do. And as this comes along, I will add these sorts of things in. If I don't get too many of these, I'll just put 1 or 2 at the end of videos, and we'll just do it that way. So there you go, quick rinse later. It spins fine. You can see there's less water in there. I'm not sure how that water got in there, but I'll figure it out. It's no big deal. So anyway, thanks very much for watching. As always, leave comments, and I'll see you in the next video, and bye for now.